Well, we said this team needed to battle and claw their way to at least get one win. They've done that. Now we look ahead. Can they somehow find a way to win this series?
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. As always, I'm Braden Iwasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5 Iwasco. Carter First, too, as well on our main Twitter, at Locked On Jays. You can follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Locked On Blue Jays. And if you haven't already, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. It really does help us out. It's free. You might as well do it. And you get notified with our videos, our shorts, our live streams, our podcasts, the whole ordeal. So hit that subscribe button. It really does matter. And we appreciate it more than you guys know. So please go and do that. But the Toronto Blue Jays win a baseball game today, last night, 2-1. Walk it off in the ninth. Alejandro Kirk. That was sweet. The game itself, sort of boring. The win was awesome. We said this team needed to claw and fight and battle because it wasn't looking good after the first game. And this was a classic Toronto Blue Jays win. 2-1 victory, pitching duel, 10 total hits in the ball game. I'm Carter. You know what? I can be upset about the offense, and we can be. And I've said with wins like this, it sort of hurts me too because I feel like the offense needs to do more, and they don't. But at the end of the day, this is a big win against a very good baseball team.
Yeah, the Phillies are one of the best teams in the NL. And I don't normally like to do this with this offense, but I am going to give a little bit of a hat tip to Mick Abel today. I think he did look really good. The command was very good from Abel. Throwing curveballs, getting ahead of the count. Really a really good strikeout pitch in this game for him. Kind of did the same thing he did against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Just was had the very good location. That's going to take you very far in the MLB if you can operate on the black, not miss over the middle of time, which Mick Abel didn't really do other than the Bichette kind of left the ball hanging a little bit and obviously got punished a bit for that. But for a guy making his second major league start, I mean, you can't really complain if you're from the Philadelphia Phillies, especially with the pitching staff that you have, like Zach Wheeler's not even pitching this series. Jesus Luzardo, we'll see. Ranger Suarez, again, you can kind of go through the list. Christopher Sanchez would be the other one. So if you have Mick Abel as your fifth starter, you're probably going to be pretty excited about that. But yeah, the pitching duo was nice to see, especially with Jose Berrios on the mound. Just that classic Jose Berrios start that you're going to see, 6 innings pitched, that one long ball that he gives up seems like fairly often, but again, able to bounce back very well, give you some length in this start, and a nice bounce back win for this Toronto Blue Jays team to get. You're not going to be able to have your offense show up every single day, day in and day out. Again, Mick Abel looked very good on the mound today. Some of the at-bats, again, you're going to have bad at-bats throughout a baseball game. There's going to be stuff that doesn't necessarily go your way. It's baseball. It's 162 games. Just lots of peaks and valleys, but definitely a big one to pull out. And just another clutch hit from another Toronto Blue Jay once again in this baseball game.
Yeah, and you know what? I go back to the start of this game, and for some reason, I don't know if it was Jose Berrios' first couple innings, or I guess it was his first inning. Usually, I say if Jose Berrios can get out of the first inning without getting hurt, I think he's got like a 5 ERA in the first inning before this game. So he's not a very good pitcher in that first inning. But if he can get out of that, he usually goes on and has a very good day. And sure enough, that's what we got from him. So I was pleased with that because that leads into this team having a chance to win. The bullpen looked unbelievable again. I mean, Brendan Little is an absolute dog. He might be, I think it's easy enough to say that he's a top 3 bullpen arm on this team, and I don't think that's a long shot at all. He has been so steady, so good. Shout out to him. Huge hat tips. And you know what, Carter? Bichette, that's a guy, our big dogs here today. Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Alejandro Kirk, 3 guys that you want to see produce. And yes, it wasn't they were popping off the page, but Bichette is the reason they get the first run. That was a great hit. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in a big situation gets a base hit, steals a bag. obviously on Jordan Romano and the substitute catcher because Real Muto gets nut shotted and had to leave the game. But Vlad takes advantage of an opportunity and gets himself in a scoring position for the Alejandro Kirk, deep double, I guess it was, to win them that game. So this was just a good game where your big dogs came to eat in big situations. And if Bichette doesn't get that run in originally, there wasn't enough hits going on. So you needed him to capitalize. He capitalized. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had to set the table for Alejandro Kirk. He did that. Alejandro Kirk steps up and gets the job done. And honestly, Andrus Gimenez had the first 2 hits of this ball game for the Toronto Blue Jays. So as much as we say he's not our favorite guy, he was a piece that helped get the job done today. So I guess a little bit of hat tips to him as well.
Yeah, I'm going to start off with Andrus Gimenez, I guess, of this all. It's a lot easier to root for a guy like Andrus Gimenez when he's hitting 8 or 9 in your lineup and he's not hitting in number 4. That, again, it's hard to root for a guy when you have that much pressure on when you're number 4 hitter. Cleanup hitter, he's obviously supposed to hit for some power. Andrus Gimenez is never necessarily going to be that guy. So we talked about in the last episode, just putting guys in spots where they can set themselves up for success. Putting Andrus Gimenez in the 4 hole is not setting him up for success whatsoever. He's quickly not going to become a fan favorite if that's what you're going to do. And that's where John Schneider obviously had him at the start of the season. Not where you want to predominantly put a guy like Andrus Gimenez. But we kind of look at this game. You said the big dogs did come through, and they did when it mattered. When Bichette hit that triple, obviously you score Andrus Gimenez there. You probably want Vlad to cash in. Obviously, you have, again, runner on third base. It's a tie baseball game. You have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. up less than 2 outs. Does put a little bit of a shot to right field, but again, kind of just an excuse me swing, really just fighting in that at bat. Is able to push one to right field, but not deep enough whatsoever. Those are the at-bats you want him to come up in, and you want Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to be hitting in those situations. Unfortunately, unable to come up in that situation. But then you're right. Obviously, leads off that that's a little rally, I guess you could say it is, even though it was only 2 hits. But Vladimir Guerrero Jr. gets on base, steals his first base of the season, which I don't think many people were expecting. I definitely was not expecting whatsoever. And off Jordan Romano, that was obviously an interesting storyline as well. At one point in the game, he had Jordan Romano warming up for the Philadelphia Phillies. And then you have Jeff Hoffman warming up for the Toronto Blue Jays. Obviously, when you go back to 2024, that would be reversed. So a little bit of an interesting line there. But Jeff Hoffman is able to get that last laugh. He is able to get the win for the Toronto Blue Jays. And Jordan Romano, unfortunately, kind of carrying off from what we saw in 2024, especially at the Rogers Center, where unfortunately he is not able to close out baseball games. If it's not, especially a safe situation for a guy like Jordan Romano, we know kind of how that saga goes. But just Alejandro Kirk, it was booked as a single in the kind of the scorers table with Alejandro Kirk. I mean, might have been a single anyway. So, I mean, just a little bit of a shot at him, obviously, but not the quickest base runner, but just a very good at bat by Alejandro Kirk again with 2 strikes. One of the best 2-strike hitters in the MLB. So again, not the prettiest win of all time, but definitely a hard-fought win and a big win for the Toronto Blue Jays ball club.
Yeah, Carter. And you know what? We didn't really talk about the Jordan Romano of it all, and actually shout out the Edmonton Oilers. Sorry, they just won that game in overtime. So there you go. 4-3 Edmonton takes game 1 for interesting. Depending, leave us in the comment. Actually, I want to know how many of you guys from Canada are like Edmonton's now Canada's team. We got to go with Edmonton. I'm a Paul Maurice guy. I love Paul Maurice. I'm going Florida personally, but I do get the sentiment of, Canadians wanting Canadians to do well. So I get that as well. Anyway, back to Jordan Romano. It was nice to see, right? They did the salute thing to him in the first game where they did the video for him. That was really nice. Just all the fans, all the signs. It is nice to see a guy that was a staple for this baseball club for many years. You got to show a little bit of respect. And I think you got to really give Alejandro Kirk a ton of credit on that hit because the guy was battling. He knew Jordan Romano was going to try to beat him with the slider. And all he had to do, and so that's what he was sort of sitting on, was the fastball. If he could get a hold of the fastball, he didn't want to get beat by the slider. And Alejandro Kirk was fouling pitches off. I think there was a low slider down in the zone or just below the zone. He fouls off. Makes Jordan Romano go back to the fastball, and that's when Alejandro Kirk takes advantage. So big shout out to Alejandro Kirk. That was a fantastic at bat, a fantastic battle. And if there's one guy that knows how Jordan Romano is going to pitch, it's Alejandro Kirk. So I think he knew what the game plan was going to be against him. And, it's about adjusting. And Alejandro Kirk, I think, showed a great deal there because he was able to adjust to what Jordan Romano was going to do to him. And So Alejandro Kirk has been clutch pretty much all season, Carter, in some big situations. He's been able to drive in some massive runs. So huge shout out Alejandro Kirk for yesterday's game.
Yeah, Alejandro Kirk definitely at least a little bit familiar with what Jordan Romano is going to throw. Obviously, was his catcher from like 2022 into 2024, even a little bit of 2021. So again, they have a lot of familiarity there, obviously as well. One of my little pet peeves when Jordan Romano was pitching for the Toronto Blue Jays is sometimes he felt like he was a bit predictable. It's either like you knew he was going to go low and away with the slider, or he was going to go with that high fastball. I think Alejandro Kirk obviously kind of knew that as well. Let Jordan Romano go in the last pitch, tried to go with a high and outside fastball, didn't necessarily get it high enough. I don't think if you had that pitch back, probably wants it a couple inches higher off Alejandro Kirk, but just a beautiful swing from Kirk. Like you said, has been very good this season, giving us the closest offensive season that we've gotten from Alejandro Kirk to that 2022 year, spraying the ball all over the diamond. Has a WRC plus of 108, and that's before this game. So this is exactly what you want from Alejandro Kirk. You know you're not necessarily going to get a ton of home runs from this guy, but you want him to come up with runners on, smack line drives all over the diamond, hit singles, hit doubles, hit these gap shots so he can drive in runners, and that's what Alejandro Kirk did in this game. That contract and just buying low on Alejandro Kirk, I think is going to continue to look better and better and better as we progress on, and Alejandro Kirk kind of gets again, more comfortable behind the plate, which he already looks very comfortable, especially with the progress that he's made over the last few seasons. So I think Alejandro Kirk is just set up to get better and better, and that is going to look like one of the better contracts from Ross Atkins in this Ross Atkins Toronto Blue Jays era.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We said it right when this happened. There were some people that are arguing, why would you pay that guy this much? And it's really not. Alejandro Kirk, I think, is going to absolutely be a key piece to this team because he's great defensively. And if you can get his offense going like it has been a little bit, back closer to that 2022 year, yeah, you are thrilled with that contract. That might be one of the better catching contracts in the league. So huge shout out Alejandro Kirk. He has been unbelievable this season. If it's defensively, if it's offensively, I am very pleased what he's giving this team. Now, again, there is a lot to go over. There is the bullpen. There is the offense component to this, and obviously the now ability to win a series against this Phillies team. So we're going to get into all that. Let's take a quick break, Carter. We'll come back. We'll talk more about the game because there was a lot of interesting little components in this one. Plus just sort of in general here. This team now has the opportunity to go and win. Can they pull it off? And how will they do so against a good pitcher in Jesus Luzardo? We'll be right back with more. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. You guys know how much I love FanDuel. You know how much pretty much everybody I talk to, if it's Skylar Peters, Don Wilton, those guys, when they're on, they talk FanDuel a ton because we like to bet on sports. It's fun. It's easy to do so. And with FanDuel, they make it even easier. The NBA playoffs are in full swing. Same with NHL, obviously Cup finals. And every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, whether it's in a game-winning shot, a breakout player. There's never been a better time to get out in the action. FanDuel makes it even easier to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. There was a bet-boosted one yesterday. It was for Alejandro Kirk and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Obviously, it didn't happen. And so I doubled down on it today, and that hit. So there you go. Go take a look. They got some of those boosted. I was betting in-game just on the Oilers, actually. Good thing I did because they won. So even though I was going for the Panthers, the Oilers had the momentum. So I bet them middle of the overtime, and it paid off for me. So it gives you so many opportunities. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Carter, continuing on, I did want to just talk about the bullpen a little bit more in depth because they had a great day. And I think I'm not going to lie, in a 1-1 ball game and Jeff Hoffman comes to the plate or comes to the dish, to the mound. There you go. I was a little bit worried. I was a little bit concerned. I don't know. I just had a pit in my stomach, but he was able to get the job done.
Yeah, you're paying him to go in these situations. I mean, it has been a little bit spotty, but with Jeff Hoffman, I think you can kind of tell right away, and it's usually a command thing with Hoffman. The command did look like it was there. The stuff has been there for Jeff Hoffman. We haven't really seen this massive drop in velo when he's gotten blown up on. So with again only getting one out, I didn't feel too bad in that scenario. Felt pretty good, especially with how things have been going. And then you do see Jordan Romano coming in, just the familiarity that this team does have with him. Again, you're paying Jordan Romano as well. You probably want to use him in some higher leverage situations. But again, like I said in that first segment, we kind of know how it goes with Jordan Romano a lot of these times if it's not a save situation. And unfortunately for Philadelphia Phillies fans, they kind of burned them once again. But when you're looking at, I mean, our bullpen, like you kind of brought up in the first segment, Brendan Little, easily a top 3 reliever on this team. I think you can argue that he's the best reliever on this team right now, just with some of the stats behind Brendan Little. Obviously, with the knuckle curve, one of the best pitches in all of baseball. I looked at just what the whiff rate was on that pitch the other day because I knew, again, you can just tell how gross it is, obviously. A lot of people are talking about it, but 61.5% whiff rate on the knuckle curve. Absolutely ridiculous stuff. Again, a sub 1.3 ERA from this guy. The numbers are absolutely jumping off the page. And when you look at a lot of the trade acquisitions that Ross Atkins has made, a lot of them haven't necessarily worked out in his favor. But we got Brendan Little last year from the Chicago Cubs, or the season before that, for cash considerations. That's all it took to get Brendan Little, and now he is one of the best lefties in all of the AL. So a huge fleece from Ross Atkins. Whoever, maybe it was Ross Atkins, maybe it was obviously somebody in the scouting report. Maybe let's make that guy our general manager. Clearly, he has something figured out. Brendan Little has been absolutely dominant this season, and from one of the biggest question marks going into this year was who is going to be that dominant lefty out of your bullpen? Who's going to kind of give you that random Tim Mayza season that we did get in 2023? Take your pick. You got Mason Fluharty. You could have had Ryan Yarbrough at this point. You have Brendan Little. Any one of those 3 guys. You got 2 out of 3 of them, obviously. So that has been one of the strong suits, actually, when that was one of our biggest things that we were looking at in this offseason that might have needed a little bit of help. Clearly, they're proving us wrong.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. You know what? It goes back to the fact of what we said all offseason to the beginning of the year. This bullpen needed to be better, and it was a little bit of a diamond in the rough situation. And I don't think anybody would have predicted the Mason Fluharty season that has happened, the Brendan Little season that has happened. So that is sort of a huge component to having a good bullpen. You can't pay everybody $7, $8, $9 million to come pitch in your bullpen. You need the guys that just have a breakout year and find their stuff. Or if it is a one-off season, you need that season to happen when you're obviously once a year from somebody to be successful. And this bullpen has gotten lucky. I mean, you look at Yariel Rodriguez, a guy that we weren't sure what was going to happen with him. He's been fantastic. Brendan Little out of nowhere has been fantastic. Mason Fluharty has been fantastic. Jeff Hoffman, besides a couple blowups, has been fantastic. Jimmy Garcia has been consistent. I think you were hoping for a little bit more to Chad Green. He's been fine, I think, but I think you would have liked him to be a little bit better. But I think at the end of the day, you're okay with that because of everybody else's production. And that's not even getting into getting Erik Swanson back, getting Ryan Burr back eventually. Like Eric Lauer has been good.
Nick Sandlin coming back soon, right?
Yeah, like it's nonstop here. So I think this team has to be so confident in their pitching, or at least in their bullpen, their starters. I mean, again, we're a little bit on rocky turf here. But you have 3 very capable starters. You have a bullpen full of guys that can get out there and do the job. You just need your offense to click, and you need those other 2 starters to somehow figure it out here. So there are holes in this team. There are problems, but the bullpen and the 3 starting pitchers aren't the issue right now.
Yeah, I think I agreed with everything you said, other than the Brendan Little kind of coming out of nowhere. There was some underlying numbers last season that did point to Brendan Little being a productive pitcher. Maybe not, again, how good he has been, but his fly ball to home run ratio last year was absolutely ridiculous. You could tell he was getting insanely unlucky. If that just had some positive regression, which we have seen, Brendan Little has been unbelievable this year. You can tell he's going to be an effective reliever, but I definitely cannot say that I expected, a 1.29 ERA from Brendan Little over 28 innings, 1.07 whip. Again, the knuckle curve, I knew it was good. Didn't think it was this crazy. Didn't know you had some swing and miss stuff, but this has been definitely blowing our minds as Toronto Blue Jays fans. One of the things that, again, you were pretty worried about going into the season when we did our offseason rankings. We had the bullpen as one of the main things that this team needed to fix. They took some shots on some guys. Made some lower leverage moves. At least at the time, though, they seemed like They weren't these massive moves, and obviously it has paid dividends for this Toronto Blue Jays team. Like you said, you have 3 starters that you are confident in. Erik Lauer kind of as that 4th guy that so far you haven't confident to make those spot starts. You probably do have to reassure this starting pitching a little bit. But when your bullpen is this dominant and it has been pitching the way it has been, you have a lot of these guys at your disposal that haven't necessarily been used a ton. Like we had that narrative that Jimmy Garcia and Jeff Hoffman were being overthrown. That didn't really have a ton of validity. But for at least the short term, until you can get Max Scherzer maybe back, until you can get Spencer Turnbull, you're not in the worst spot to throw that bullpen day. And for those bullpen arms to throw you a good enough outing that it puts you in a shot or gives you a chance to win, puts you in a good it gives you a good shot to end up competing in that baseball game. And that is not a luxury that every baseball team could say. So definitely has been a pleasant surprise with just how deep this bullpen has been. You kind of saw the guys at the ceiling and how good they could be, but didn't necessarily see that you could have 8 guys on a given day that could go out and give you a 0.
So I guess as this season moves forward, Carter, we know the holes by this point, right? I think we can see. And I don't want you to get specific here because I think we're going to save this and really do a deep dive. But is a starting pitcher a possible trade target here for this team? I think it has to be, right? I know you have Alek Manoah coming back, but I think if you want to compete heavily down the stretch, maybe shoring up a 5th spot, maybe it's the play right now. And maybe getting on it earlier rather than later might be even a better idea.
See, if you're going to go and address this starting pitching right now, there's 2 things you can do. You go out and you make this massive trade. You get that ace and you get a guy that is going to be insanely effective. I don't necessarily think that is what they're going to do, especially with the market for this upcoming season. Again, you got Dylan Cease, Michael King, Zach Gallen. You got some options that you're going to be able to make splashes in. Getting a kind of a depth guy, again, how much does that help you down the stretch? It's definitely going to help you in the regular season, but come playoffs, like you're going to use 3, maybe 4 starting pitchers. Yeah. So I don't know if you want to necessarily blow up the farm to get a guy that's not necessarily going to help you that much into the playoffs. So I think it really depends on how much this front office is willing to give up. What the trade market is last year, obviously, was the seller's market. If you're going to give up that much for the starting pitchers that teams were willing to pay for, I don't love that, obviously, just for the kind of value and just the current prospect pool this Toronto Blue Jays team is in. But I would not be surprised, no, especially if Bowden Francis can't kind of figure it out. And we'll have to see, obviously, if Max Scherzer, how that kind of development works out. But if you can't get innings from Max Scherzer, I would not be surprised whatsoever. If at the trade deadline, there is this kind of stretch where maybe they do trade for a position player as well, but there is a throw-in of some sort of starting pitcher to give this team a little bit of depth going down the stretch.
Yeah, and we're going to talk more and more about sort of trades as we get closer to the deadline but right now we don't necessarily know where the Blue Jays are at, right? We don't know if they're going to be a team pushing for a wild card spot. We don't know if they're going to be a team that's going to miss it by 5-6 games. We don't know yet. It is still early to be standings watching, but I think to address the areas that this team needs, I think one more power bat, like we said from the offseason, Carter, would be very helpful. A starting pitcher would be helpful. But yeah, you're right. It's all what's the market at. And I don't necessarily know that you want to be the team that first of all sets that market. And so that's another tough whole component here. I don't know. A lot to look at. I just thought it was interesting, at least. I did see something on Twitter that somebody's like, oh, Addison Barger, not a great day. It's like, well, the guy's been unbelievable for the past 5-6 games. So how about we give the guy can have a day off, especially when this team gets a win. So absolutely no shots will be taken right now at Addison Barger on this podcast.
I don't know if I'm necessarily on the same fence as you, because there was something I did notice in this game. Again, I'm not going to blame Addison Barger for not producing in this game. He did have 3 strikeouts. The only issue I had is that the 3 strikeouts were the exact same every single time. Is that they were firing him with fastballs. Then whether it was Owen Keckering, Jordan Romano had him obviously in the 9th inning as well. You had Mick Gable. No matter who it was either a curveball or a slider, and it was just a low inside curveball or slider, and he was way out in front of that. So again, with Addison Barger, with him not necessarily having the most service time, these teams are going to start getting tape on him. They are going to start figuring out his weaknesses and pitching him a bit differently. I'm not saying that's already happening now, but when you've seen that common theme happen kind of, every single at-bat in this game, it only is one game, so I'm not going to be too hard on him necessarily, but that's something that we might have to look out for is how teams kind of do attack him with the off-speed pitches, especially lower on in the zone, because when Addison Barger was having some struggles, a lot of those times it was him chasing, especially off-speed pitches outside the strike zone.
For sure. And that's what I said immediately when he came up and started having success was that teams were going to figure him out eventually, and he's going to have to readjust back to that. But for this game, we've seen him have one game that he has not done well, and you can also look at 6 other guys in this lineup that didn't have a good game. So I am not going to say anything bad. Just looking at this game as a whole. If this goes on for 5-6 games, okay, maybe we start having a conversation, maybe even less than that, even if it's 3-4 games. But guys get hot, guys get cold. One game, I'm not firing Addison Barger to the moon quite yet.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought Addison Barger's not going to hit a home run every single baseball game? So again, the Blue Jays won the game. Addison Barger might not have had the best production, but in the grand scheme of things, you're going for wins. Addison Barger's not going to care what his stat line is if the Toronto Blue Jays end up getting the win at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We got more for you guys on the other side. Plus, can this Blue Jays team figure out a way to get a win against Jesus Luzardo coming up later on today? Because, again, this would be, when we're looking back at series, a huge time for this team to take advantage and pull ahead further and further away from that 500 mark. We'll come back right after this break and talk about that. So, Carter, continuing on, this Toronto Blue Jays team has a chance to win this series. Now, I know the Phillies are a very good baseball team. I am not taking shots or anything like that. But I feel very good about this team if they end up winning this series. I think it shows the fight and the grit and the mentality to win against good teams, especially coming off of a series win, a series sweep, and then if you can somehow pick up a series win against the Phillies, I am over the moon thrilled to start out this little bit of a tougher schedule stretch here that this team is going to have. But do you realistically think that this can happen against Jesus Luzardo?
I think it's going to be a tough matchup for sure. I don't think this is going to be easy comings whatsoever. I think if the Toronto Blue Jays are going to win this game, it's going to kind of have to be the same thing that we did see with this Jose Berrios start. We're going to have to see Chris Bassitt have a pretty good performance. We're going to have to see him kind of work in and out of trouble. This is a good Philadelphia Phillies lineup. So again, I'm not expecting Chris Bassitt to go like 8 shutout innings. They only give up 2 hits. He probably is going to get himself into some trouble when you have that competent of a lineup, when you got those guys, those veteran players with the tenures that they do have. This would be a huge series win, but again, it's not necessarily the end of the world if you lose this game. Obviously, the goal is to win series, and you got to win series against good baseball teams. You will have another chance against the Philadelphia Phillies. But I think, again, the expectation right now is Jesus Luzardo has been a very good pitcher. If you can get 3 to 4 runs, and if you score 4 runs, you lose this baseball game, I'm not going to be overly upset unless Chris Bassitt does have a blow-up start. But the Philadelphia Phillies are a good team. But again, obviously you want to see them win. Would be a huge series win. But I don't really know what's going to happen in this baseball game. I think it's a very big coin flip. It's a 50-50 shot. But I do think we'll be kind of able to tell what the result is going to be in this game, probably within the first inning or so.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think this is I'm a little bit lost trying to figure out what's going to happen in game 3 of this series. I don't want to say a good thing, but it's something that will help the Blue Jays because I don't prey on injuries for any player. JT Realmuto will be a question mark still at the time that we're recording this. He is under evaluation after getting hit in the groin with the ball there. So again, I don't want to say it's going to help the Blue Jays if he's not in, but it's definitely going to help the Blue Jays if he's not in. But this team is going to either way have to figure out a way to miss some bats, right? They still have Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Alec Boehm, Bryson Stott, all these guys that are very capable hitters. And that's only naming a few. This roster is insane. So, yeah, Chris Bassitt is going to have a good day. And I don't think that's a secret here. We've seen Chris Bassitt have a fantastic season so far. Can he continue at that against a very good lineup? That'll be a big question mark for me, something I'll be watching very intently. And I think he can. But like you said, I think we'll be able to tell very, very early on. And what this Toronto Blue Jays offense can bring into this game. Because again, it's great that you win this game, but you only scored 2 runs going against a pitcher that's going to be better. So I'm a little bit iffy on this one, but I'm praying to God they can pull this one out somehow.
Yeah, would be a massive confidence boost. And again, would prove the doubters wrong once again with the narrative coming from the Athletic series being, oh, it's the Oakland Athletics. It's a team that hasn't won baseball games ever. Their pitching's horrible. If you can win a series against the Philadelphia Phillies, I don't really know what the haters are going to say. Maybe they're going to say, oh, it's only one series. It's not the end of the world. There's always something that the people are going to say that it can be negative towards this baseball team. But if you go on this little run, you have a little stretch here where you're going to win a bunch of series. It start to, get this little streak going, that it can only be positive for your baseball club. So there's two more things I quickly want to go over just off the top here is that Vladimir Guerrero Jr., we talk about some of the effort plays that this guy makes. In the ninth inning, Bryce Harper hits a ground ball to him. He makes a diving play just to beat him to that first base. Again, that could be a rally starter right there. You never know what could happen. You get the tying run on base, or actually the go-ahead run, on base. Vladdy showing that effort that we really wanted to see from defensively here, making a diving play to beat Bryce Harper out. And the last thing I just kind of want to throw in is that Nathan Lucas not very, very productive today, but did have some very good at bats, was lighting balls all over the diamond, making very good contact. So again, it's not necessarily the stat sheet that you have to look at every single time. Sometimes it's just the quality of that bat. The eye test is what we like to use a ton on this podcast because the analytics can say one thing for sure, but then the eye test can definitely point you in a different direction as well. So you kind of have to consider both sides of the coin here, but just want to give a shout out to both of those players in that Blue Jays win.
Vladimir Guerrero Jr., that's exactly what I love to see from him. You can tell this season there's something to prove here with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I don't even want to say want to prove. I think a want to win and a more determination. And I think that play shows you exactly the player that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is becoming. I think it's a guy that can go out there and have some fun, but I think when the moment comes down to it, to break and make that play. I mean, even him with the steal today, Carter, right? That's something I don't know if we see Vladdy try to do, right? But instead he throws full body on the line to get that steal. And he went down hard on that, on that slide / dive. So that's two plays from Vladdy that you really want to see. That is your face of the franchise. That is your guy. That's your $500 million man. You want him making plays like that. You want him giving it his all and looking like he cares out there. And when he makes plays like that and does stuff like that he shows me he is very into the game, it's a lot easier for me watching him having fun and messing and goofing off a little bit when he goes and shows me that he is into games by doing things like that. So yeah, I was very pleased with Vladdy's performance today. I really was.
Yeah, and looking at the score sheet, sorry, you're not going to be like, oh, Vladdy clearly won this game for the Toronto Blue Jays. And maybe he didn't solely win this game, but those are the little plays that, again, if you're not watching the baseball game necessarily, that you're not going to notice. So, yeah, again, shout out to Vladdy getting his money, obviously, in this offseason, but still clearly showing that he does want to win and that winning is going to be the biggest thing for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and just his happiness when we're seeing him on the baseball field. I just want to say thank you guys for watching, the likes, comments, all of the support recently has been much appreciated. You guys, staying with the podcast, staying and watching baseball games with us, especially with the roller coaster of a season that this just always seems to be with this Toronto Blue Jays baseball team. But Braden, anything else that you want to add before we do take off for this episode?
No, just we'll see what happens in this game 3. I'm going to be right dialed in. It's sort of at a perfect time of day for us, Carter. 2:00. Well, maybe not as much for you, but for me, it's fantastic. So I'm pretty pumped up. Obviously, for those of you that are out there in Toronto, it's a 3:07 start. I know a lot of people don't like those. I work weird hours. I love it for me. So again, we'll see what happens. We got a ball game tomorrow as well. So this should be a ton of fun. We'll see what happens. Everybody, I hope you go and enjoy game 3 because I feel like this one's going to be a little bit of a dogfight. So stay tuned. Come join us on the podcast after tomorrow's, or I guess, what would that be? Friday morning, I guess, for the podcast. Yeah. So you guys can be right tuned in and be ready for the next series to come. Yeah, everybody have a good night. We'll talk to you tomorrow.